Abortion happens every day. Millions of people around the world will have an abortion each year. But the majority of those people will never talk about their abortion experiences. What if millions of people broke their silence and told the truth about their lives and their choices? This is Melissa Madera in Toronto, Canada, and you're listening to the Abortion Diary podcast. These are the stories we share.
I had my abortion 5 years ago in Jordan, and I usually don't talk about this experience much. I think I was a bit intimidated in the beginning because I researched a lot about abortion law, and eventually I became an abortion activist. And from what I understand from the law, that as a German citizen, I have to obey to the German law, even I'm not within Germany, but outside the borders. It's true for doctors and also for people themselves who want to have an abortion, that you should fulfill the German law, and otherwise you commit a crime. And for the German law, abortion, it's a crime that doesn't really get punished. So there's only a few in rare cases that it becomes public that people didn't follow the organized structure how to have a legal abortion, but still it's legal, and it just actually means it's illegal, but you're not punished for it. And so to go back to my own story, I think just I wanted to share the context why I don't feel so comfortable talking about it in general, because I feel I'm never sure I put myself in some kind of harm sharing it, or if it's only empowering to talk about it because it has this bitter taste. Yeah. And 2011, I was 23 years old. I spent a year in Jordan to work in a NGO in a social project. And during my time, I was hiking a lot. I was very active on couch surfing, meeting local people. And I don't know, for me as a single woman, I really had a good time. I didn't get harassed. I enjoyed my time a lot. And I met some friends in close to Petra. I don't know, it's this natural monument which was built 4,000 years ago, where the Nabateans built houses within hills. And the local population there call themselves Bedouins, and one of them was a member in the couchsurfing community, and he has more than 1,200 visitors already who stayed with him. And he didn't live in the village where most people were replaced to when they make it touristic attraction, but he decided to go even a bit further outside and built his house in a cage, a former one, which is not part of the, let's say, a touristic attraction, but still like historical place where people live since a few thousand years. So I contacted him on couch surfing, and I had some friends visiting, and we went all together. It was winter, and spent some really nice time. There was plenty of other couch surfers, so I think we were 10 people in total visiting, and was a really cheerful ambience. So I don't know, there was a musician and some people who were making some handcraft. We went out for walks. We also had to look at Petra, of course. And the brother of our host, or this couch surfer, he was visiting his brother as well. And I don't know, I got along really well. I was proud to use my Arabic that I was learning at that time, and which made it a bit different. I always felt the relationship I got with local populations compared, for example, to my friends who don't know Arabic, or to the other tourists that just come for 2 weeks, that I was already living there for half a year or so. And then I had a one-night stand with this brother of my host, which was pretty surprising, but not bad. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. And only the next day I learned that he is married and he has 9 children already. So he's a really fertile person, it seems. And horny as well. He showed me later that he has a card, he's living in Bahrain, that he can go for the brothel. And it's like a credit card just for the brothel. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's interesting to meet such a person. And I still didn't regret having this one night stand, but as it was quite spontaneous, we didn't use protection. And when my friends left, I didn't think about it much anymore. It was more like, I don't know, a new experience for myself, even to have a one night stand in a cage somewhere in the desert. And yeah, usually I have a really irregular period, so it take me usually between 35-40 days, and then after 45 days I get really a bit worried, and I don't know, I started feeling different, and I had no idea about the local infrastructure. I didn't know where to get a pregnancy test. I didn't know where to get the morning after pill before even, and how to get it, because from what I knew, you have to be married to get the ordinary contraception pill in the pharmacy. I'm not married. Of course, I'm a Westerner, so it's a bit different. You always treat it a bit different than the local population. But also, I didn't want to, don't know, give the stereotype of this sexually wild, white Western woman coming to the Arab world, having fun with Arab boys, and to go for the village where I was living, for the pharmacy, asking for these products, which I wasn't sure I would get. The few years before that happened, before I was in Jordan, I'm living in Berlin. I watched a movie from a local activist about abortion, and I got really interested about it, because I figured that even my grandmother, she's a feminist and was on some demos, etc. I never thought about abortion being a topic for me. And I saw this movie, Abortion Democracy, from Sarah Deal, and I really was astonished that I never stumbled upon this topic before. Even it's illegal in Germany, so you should become mad, and this is really a topic for somebody who thinks as a feminist can occupy their time with. And I learned about women on web and women on waves in Netherlands, and to go back to Jordan now, I was maybe 40 days over, or didn't have my period for 40 days, 45 days, and I contacted women on web to send me some abortion pills to Jordan. Yeah, and then it was pretty uncomplicated. I did the online consultation, answered the questions that are in this telemedicine program, and then the next problem is that I don't have, or the mail in Jordan doesn't work the same as it works in Berlin. Usually you need a post box to receive letters, and I didn't have a post box, and you cannot have it to your private address. And I didn't know even in Jordan if it's legal or illegal to have an abortion, if it's legal or illegal to have these medicines to perform an abortion. So that maybe was the only thing that made me nervous. But the staff from Women on Web, they I don't know, were in a way comforting to tell me that it's my right and there's also international agreements, etc. And then the mail never came to Karak, to the village where I was living, but went to the capital because it was sent by Deutsche Post, I remember. Or it was sent by mail, and they only brought their mail to the capital, and I got the email notification that I could pick it up. And I had no means to go to Amman in this week, and then time was also running a bit. I think it didn't take so much, less than a week, for the package to arrive in Jordan, but then for me to be able to go to the capital took some time. So I asked somebody I knew to pick it up for me, and I didn't tell the person what is inside, and I was just hoping that it wouldn't show because I had no idea how the packaging should look like. Is it written upon that there's medicine inside or not? And I felt really shy to tell anyone that I was planning to perform abortion in my house. But eventually it worked out, and I got this medicine, and I bought the stuff that is recommended. So I bought some big pads to collect the blood, and some painkillers, and I waited for the weekend so I could have some time to rest. And at that time I was having a flatmate, and she was much younger than I was. So I was 23 years, she was 18 or 19, I'm not sure. And I didn't want to really involve her in the whole story. I mean, she knew that I had this one-night stand and wasn't shy to talk about it, but I was shy she would feel uncomfortable. I'm performing a abortion in our house, and she has to witness it, or she has to do something in emergency. So in the end, I didn't tell her, and I just did it anyway, and thought I'm going to tell her that I will have a lot of cramps or so on. Yeah. When I took the abortion pills, I mean, it's 2 types of it, and you always have to wait a few hours in between. I was starting to bleed, and for me personally, it didn't hurt much. I expected worse, but I didn't even have to take one painkiller, and the process also finished within the weekend. So I wasn't continuing bleeding afterwards. Yeah, and then I was really relieved. I mean, I was relieved in 2 ways: that I could have access to this abortion pills through Women on Web, and bypassing the process to get to know how there's a legal way in Jordan itself. And I was really relieved that I'm not pregnant, and not pregnant from a weirdo that has already 9 children and is married and has a credit card for a brother. Yeah. I think that's the last thing I could have imagined as a good start in a new life. Yeah. And then after the abortion, I never felt bad about it. I never had regrets. I didn't talk about it much for various reasons, but I was pretty sure that I wanted to support access for abortion more. So I made a few years later an internship with Women on Web in the Netherlands, and at the moment I am in a Berlin-based group. We are called Church Basher, and we help Polish women to go have a legal abortion here in Berlin. So from what I figured, after my abortion in Jordan, it's not illegal to have it, but usually the law is built upon Sharia for Muslims. I mean, this is binding, and Christians have also a bit their own law and how it works. But for Muslims, how it works is that life starts with after 40 days of conception. and so you could have a legal morning after pill and abortion in these first 40 days, because it's not really identified or labeled as live before that. But then what is the challenge for women in Jordan is that usually the husband has a right to decide upon having children or not. So he has to give his consent for an abortion. And what I'm still not sure about it is how it would be for a single person. For example, for me, would my dad then have to decide upon it, or am I legal right, do I have the legal right to decide for myself? And there's really little numbers, but there's also little research about abortion in Jordan, and it's a really pro-natal society. So usually children are, I don't know, seen as a blessing, and it's different from here in Berlin, where usually if you are becoming a parent, you're the only person responsible about it, really, and that there you have a big community to help raising a child, the neighborhood, the grandmother, the aunt. Yeah. But from all the people I met in Jordan, nobody ever experienced one abortion. So I don't know. I think it's just my guess that it doesn't really happen often, and there's a way to have it, but you also need to know the doctors or the people to ask who are willing to perform it. For me, I didn't know about anyone.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
One question that I have is, can you talk more about the process of taking the pills? How do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
When you got the pills from Women on Web, how did you take them? Did they give you directions?
Yeah, so I got this package and I opened it up in my room so my flatmate wouldn't see it. And I was reading the letter, and they gave me, I think via email already before, the instructions how to take them. I'm always confused. I mean, they're called misoprostol and mifegrene, and I can never differentiate them really well. I think you take mifegrene first and then misoprostol later. And one pill, or in Women on Web, we always call them M&Ms. I mean, not to say it's sweets, but it's as easy as eating sweets. It's not really complicated. So I had the description the instruction how to take them, and also in the box itself there was a letter explaining how it can be done. And I took the first pill, and then I think I went to bed, and the next morning I took the other kind of tablets, the misoprostol, which then started the bleeding or cramping a bit. Yeah. And there was extra pills inside, and then for a moment I got confused because I thought I forgot to take all the pills, and I was worrying a bit if the abortion now can take place, and I was out of the time system, I felt. So I wrote an email again to Women on Web asking them about these extra pills, and they explained to me that if the bleeding process already started, which it had, then I don't need to worry, and this is extra pills in case you are later in your pregnancy, so maybe you need a bit more medicine to start the process. Yeah. And in the instructions there was also a description, for example, how many pads you're going to bleed and what is the time to worry. And I think the only worries I had that I was not bleeding enough, or that it really had taken place. So to be 100% sure that I'm not pregnant anymore, as still I didn't know where to buy a pregnancy test afterwards. And the only indication I had then was to wait for my next period. Yeah, but which then came also, and this time it didn't take as usual the 35-40 days, which my period circle normally takes, but after 30 days already.
So when you were in Jordan, it was impossible to get a pregnancy test or anything like that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's really different in Amman, I guess, in the capital. You have a different lifestyle, you have different facilities, and different people to ask. But in this village where I was living, it's only 5,000 people were living in this village. And the Karak, I mean, it's the next bigger city. I was not living in Karak. And they have some pharmacies that I'm sure I could have gone to it and asked them directly, but I was never sure who will be neutral to what I say, or maybe who can cause a problem for my employer, and that I bring some kind of shame for the whole project which I was working for. And I think, I don't know, I was one of the really few foreigners who live in this city or in this village, and so there was always a lot of attention on me. And people would know who I am, even they never saw me because they heard somebody talking about this white German lady being in town.
What is the name of the group you work with?
The Berlin group.
Yeah.
So I'm working now with Church Basha. It means something like Aunt Barbara in Polish. And we chose for this name because there's a lot of abortion groups that work with this title aunt or auntie, which is like this older lady that you have in your family. You can ask if you need your first advice about anything related to sexuality, really, and to make people feel, I don't know, somehow that they can trust us, because we are really like somebody who can be close to you during this process, and who doesn't ask for money, for example. It's really more like a social favor.
How did you start working with Chocho Basra? And what exactly do you do with them?
We had an event in Berlin by some abortion activists, that there was a discussion which should bring together the older feminist generation and the younger generation, and to bring this topic abortion back into the picture, and to also overcome the gaps. The main difference in Berlin that you have between the old and younger feminists is that the older feminists always say you should decide over your own body, and that's the only important thing. And the younger feminist groups say that the established feminists often forget about the hatred towards disability, and that they don't differentiate enough between abortion because of disability and the structure that lies behind it to make the selection process, and abortion because you really don't want to be pregnant for any reason. I think this event didn't really work out to overcome this gap, but later when we sat and had a drink, a few women shared their idea to have a direct support for women who need an abortion. And Poland is a neighboring country for Berlin. And Berlin, I mean, is really far in the east of Germany, so it's pretty close. You need maybe 2 hours to reach Poland, and then according to which city you live in, a little longer. And Berlin is really liberal and has a good infrastructure for abortion. So you have a lot of feminist groups that are supporters of state-funded organizations which perform the abortion or do the consultation you have to do in Germany. So the idea was developed by some women this evening to build this group who actively supports women and aiming to help especially Polish women, or people from Poland, I mean not the only women, who want to have this legal abortion, or maybe who also want to have some information to make up their mind what's the options for them. And then it took us maybe half a year to grow a bit and to find more people who are Polish speaking, to set up a Facebook page and a Rise Up email, and then we had the first people asking for our support within a few weeks. And usually we have maybe 1 or 2 women by now who are contacting us to come to Berlin and have an abortion. And we cooperate with a local clinic that makes some special prices for these people who need to travel, because they also have to afford the bus, take a vacation, maybe accommodation, etc. Though we also try to provide accommodation in our own houses or from friends or a network that we build it. And we also try to collect some money to support people who cannot afford the full price.
How many women ask for help from your organization?
I think Ciocia Basia gets, in the beginning when we started, it's almost 2 years ago, there was like 1 woman a week, and of course you have like high peaks. I thought after Christmas it was especially busy, for example. Sometimes now in the summer it's also pretty busy, but I mean by the 2 years we started, we had 1 woman a week in the beginning, and now it's about 2 women a week, I think. And some of them, I mean, they don't even come here to Berlin to have an abortion because they're already late term, so we send them to the Netherlands or to the UK. Some, they need some advice where to find a doctor where they can have a legal abortion, because many of them have indications for fetal abnormalities, for example. But then it's difficult to find a doctor who does even perform a legal abortion in Poland. And we have a phone number that you can call. I mean, 24 hours, maybe not all the time somebody will pick up, but they will call you back a later time. And we have this email address, a Facebook account. And then it's not only Polish women. I mean, of course, it's all women living in Poland that don't need to have a Polish passport. Or it's also people who are illegalized and living in Germany who contact us.
What's the email and phone number in case someone wants to reach you?
I have to pass now with the phone number, but maybe it can be given on the website. The email, it's ciocia.basia@riseup.net, and I can spell it. It's CIOSA, ciocia.BASIE, Basia, @riseup.net.
I wondered, this is like more of a technical question, but if someone comes from Poland to get an abortion, what is the process for them to have to go through? Because I know there's certain processes in Germany for people in order to get an abortion.
So for the women that contacting us, we ask them first in which week they are, because it's only legal to have an abortion until the 14th week, or it depends on the counting system. 14 weeks means from the day of, or the first day of your last period, or 12 weeks like you would usually count from conception. And we can then decide whether we can bring her here or support her coming to Berlin, or we need to bring her to the Netherlands or the UK, where it's possible until the 22nd week. So that's the first important information, and then what needs to be done is a consultation in Germany. So before you have the right to have a legal abortion, you need to go for consultation, and the aim of this consultation usually is to convince you keeping the child. This is how it's put in the law, but also social workers have to be open in their consultation to perform it good. So the consultation that we are cooperating with will never tell you what to do, but ask you what questions you have. Usually a consultation will then be about what is the process, how it's being done, what are the alternatives. Sometimes consultators, they find it important to talk about contraception so it doesn't happen again. But it can take from 5 minutes until 1 hour, this consultation, according to the needs. And the consultator has to make a report, and this will be given or sent to the clinic. We cooperate with the clinic, and according to the law, there have to be 3 days between the consultation and the abortion itself. For us, for Georgia Basha, it's always important to know if somebody wants to have a surgical abortion or a medical abortion. For the surgical abortion, you have to do a medical check 1 day prior to the abortion, so the doctor can be sure that the gestational age is, according to the law, allowing her to perform this abortion. And there's a limit for medical abortion from... It's built upon some recommendations that it should only be a medical abortion until the 9th week, and so sometimes in this medical check they find out it's the 10th week, and I tell you it's better to have a surgical one. And in the surgical one you also have 2 options, like to take a full narcosis or just a local anesthesia, and then it take you maybe 3-4 hours. The process itself doesn't take longer than 15 minutes, but until you wake up again you feel good, maybe 3-4 hours. So usually we have people who will have the consultation, and then they come for Thursday, Friday before the weekend. Thursday will be the medical check. If they do the medical abortion, so with pills, they can have it also on a Thursday and leave home, or can be a bit more flexible on any day. But the surgical one then is mostly done on Friday, because they do it kind of a bulk. So each Friday, maybe in this clinic we cooperate with, there will be 10 women who do it in the same day. And after it's being done, maybe 3-4 hours later, you can go on the train and go back home.
Thank you for that information. Do most women come on the train?
Some, they also come by bus, because it's really cheap now in Europe to go by bus. But train, yeah, it's very popular. Some, they bring a friend and they come by car. It depends a little bit.
Going back to your abortion experience, when you were going through the process, did you tell anyone in your, and did you tell any of your friends or any of your family or anyone around you that you were going through this abortion process when you were going through the abortion in Jordan?
I had a really close Jordanian friend, and I told her afterwards that I performed this abortion myself. And she was really surprised that it's possible. She never heard about this organization, and then it made me more aware how important is it to have this publicity, just for people to have a chance to use it. But at this specific moment I didn't really talk to many people while being in Jordan, but after I returned back to Berlin and I could speak directly to my friends, I would share this experience. But for me, I don't know, I felt a bit strange to do it via Skype or online or in a chat or an email, so I kept it for myself for a while, except this Jordanian friend, and then shared it later on.
Have you shared it with your family?
No, I didn't share it with my family. I think my family knows that I'm abortion activist and this is an important topic for me, but I also don't talk with them about my sex life. And I don't know, somehow I can't really say, and it's somehow a taboo topic, but not because it's bad or something wrong, but because it's connected to sexuality in general. And so I would not tell my brother or my dad.
Do you think you'll ever share it with them?
I think if they would ask me, I would tell them that I had an abortion. They never, yeah. I think the only tricky question would be if somebody asked me, do you do abortion activism because you had an abortion? Because then I think I would lie and say no. Because I don't think it's related directly that it's a must to have had an abortion to feel it's an important topic. I think I was already interested before a lot in the topic, and I felt it's so important. I had some essays in university I wrote on the topic, so I felt, I don't know, I think maybe I ended up being an abortion activist anyway. Yeah. I was later doing a course in university. There's this option in my university to do courses while you're still a student yourself, to do a project for 1 year or a seminar for 1 year, and I did it on the topic of abortion. And then I asked the students in the second semester to produce movies about the topic, and one she decided to interview people with their abortion experience, and I told her I would do it, and then she already had another friend who wrote down her abortion story but didn't want to be shown a picture. So in the end I didn't tell my own abortion story, but this one, and this short documentary movie which is now on YouTube, and many people now in Berlin think that this is my abortion story, which it's not the one, but it's anyway interesting that it means a lot for others, so you can relate somehow to each other and feel that this is someone who can understand what you've been going through, or who has credibility more, I don't know, somehow to be an activist.
So now, do you share it often?
I don't think I share it often. I mean, it doesn't come really, even I'm an abortion activist, and I guess I talk about abortion a lot. It's not so often a topic that you had an abortion yourself. This is also what I learned when I was teaching the seminar and reading a lot of literature about the topic, that this is a part of why it's a stigma, because you go through this process and usually before you don't think about it, and then you're happy you're done with it, and you put it aside. And so I mean, if the topic comes up, I will share my story, or I'm also glad to listen to others, because this is also important to give others the room to talk about it.
You also mentioned earlier that there is a taboo about talking about it. Do you think the taboo keeps a lot of people from sharing their experiences here in Germany?
I think, that, I mean, now in Germany you have a really good situation. I think it's very different from the US. You have a good access to contraception, and you're learning in school about contraception. I never met anyone who went to German school without learning how to use a condom, or how to roll it over a stick, or how is the chemical process for the contraception pill. And so I think especially among academics, or if you go to university, there's like a certain shame that if you failed using contraception, because you were learning since you went to primary school, how does contraception work, and then if you didn't use it, I think there's some stigma around it, to talk about the abortion then, because it means that you didn't know how to use contraception, even it's not true, and even contraception doesn't always work, and even you're not always free to choose if you want to use contraception or not. But I think that is a topic that I can clearly see or tell my friends or agree upon that it has a certain negative stereotype.
When you were going through your abortion experience and you were alone, did you want to share it with people?
I don't know. I mean, I felt it's because it's a medical process. Somehow, I would also not tell anyone about my health condition if it was relating to something else. I don't know, be it asthma, I wouldn't want to tell everyone that I'm having asthma. So at that moment, I felt you need somebody you can trust or that you already have a longer relationship with. And as I was new in this country and the people around me were pretty new, I didn't feel that I found this person at that moment. And I felt I did really fine. I mean, afterwards, I was really grateful for Women on Web. I mean, I couldn't have done it completely by myself, the abortion, but it proved me that I'm a responsible person and I know how to read the instructions or the packaging, and I don't know, in a way it was empowering to have this abortion. Even I was not sharing that experience at that moment, but I didn't feel it made me suffer a lot. The difference I see now that, for example, I'm helping women to have abortions here in Berlin, and they have someone they can talk about it, because I think in a way they go through a similar situation, that they know it's illegal in the society where they're living and there's a taboo about it. And so to have at least us who are helping to organize the abortion process, to talk about some aspects of it. But usually then you will never hear, like after 2 weeks when the process is done and some of us give a feedback, you will never hear again from them. Somehow it's then done, and yeah, for sure it's easier to have the ability to talk to others, but then I believe the first thing that has to change is that it becomes legal and the taboo is not connected to this crime scene so much, or the atmosphere of committing a crime.
Why do you want to share your story?
I think first of all because you asked and multiple people told me that you're collecting these stories, and yeah, I'm good or okay to share this story. I recently was talking to a friend from our group, Basha, who just got a baby, and prior to being in labor, she told me that it's awful how society treats you when you're pregnant. And now I'm pregnant myself, and I really agree with her that I never felt there's so many opinions about what I should do and how I should do it. And the worst I find is the doctor that really always give me the feeling they are trying to select a healthy baby and offering all these extra tests that only can tell you if you have disability or disabled child or healthy one. And they never respect what I say. I always tell them I don't want this test. I don't want you to tell me even about them. And the next time I have an appointment, they will start talking about these tests again. I told them I don't want to have any extra screenings, and then I get a paper sending me for an extra screening. And so I'm respected really little in this whole process being pregnant, that it's really strange how the society works, that they are not interested in me and me as a pregnant person, but they're interested in the outcome, a healthy baby. Yeah, and I mean, this is one part just about this medical system, which is really awful, that doesn't let you really have your free choice and accepts you as a full grown-up person that has their own mind and can make up their own opinion. And the other part is that it's really awful to be pregnant. I mean, just before you put on the microphone, a recording was telling about my digestion. It's really awful. And in the beginning, when I was pregnant, I felt like I have menstrual cramps for more than a month. They would never stop. And but now I'm in a relationship and in a situation that I really want to be pregnant, so I endure all this suffering, but I can never expect, or I can never imagine how is it to be pregnant. And now, even in this late stage, I mean, I gained 10 kilos, I can barely walk or only like a duck, and my back hurts, and my breast already produce milk, and I have to put some pads so nobody can see that I'm leaking. And I don't know how somebody can endure all of this to get a child if they don't want it, because it's not the most pleasant thing to be pregnant.
Well, how do you feel sharing your story now?
I don't know, I feel really comfortable. You're a good listener. It's comfortable because we're in my house, so it feels already like a nice ambience. I feel normal sharing my my experience. In a way, I think also it's nothing special. Like, I hope that somebody who would listen to it would feel normal about their own experience. That if they never had one, they would feel confident if they had to imagine doing one in the future. That nobody would have the feeling that you get mentally sick or ill, that it doesn't mean that you can never have a child. And that I don't know, I see myself as a normal person who didn't suffer from doing an abortion, who's not a freak doing an abortion, who didn't get damaged, who didn't regret it. And I see it just as one little aspect of a life full of events. So from 28 years to have this abortion, which took me less than a few days, it's such a little thing that is just one aspect about the whole me, or my whole being.
This is Melissa, and I want to thank you for listening. You can continue to listen to our stories online through our website or by subscribing on iTunes or SoundCloud or your favorite podcast app. And please take a moment to tell us why our stories matter to you by rating and reviewing our podcast on iTunes. It helps new listeners find us by boosting our iTunes ranking, and it just takes a few minutes. And remember, the Abortion Diary is free, but it takes money to keep it that way. Help the Abortion Diary continue its work and share our stories by showing your support and donating now. Thank you to Lorna and her lovely roommates for hosting me in Berlin, Germany, so I could record this story. If you'd like to host me in your city or town, please send me a message. I'm currently in Toronto, Canada, and look forward to visiting your city or town soon. And I'll be back next week with a new story. New stories are posted every Tuesday. Until then, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Follow us.